All right, we got Coach Lubick here, and we'll get started. Let's start with Brian Christopherson, 24/7 Sports.
Hey, Coach, I'm going to actually ask you about someone who's not playing. Will Nixon, what's he been doing behind the scenes? Has he kind of been in your meetings and stuff? How has he been engaged?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about him. He's doing awesome. It was disappointing when we lost him very early on in the summer as soon as he got up here because he showed great promise. He was a guy that we definitely thought would have contributed this year. But to his credit, battling through his knee injury, he's doing everything he possibly can ahead of schedule, shows up for every meeting, knows the positions from a video skill or just being able to explain it inside and out without actually repping it. So I could not be more impressed with his progress and what he's done, and we expect to have him full go next year.
Obviously, you just lost a young guy from your room. What's your message as a coach to those guys? It's been a difficult year, and maybe some get impatient or whatever. What do you tell them as they're going through this?
Sure, it to be honest, doesn't really affect our room. It's the guys that are here. We're going to coach the guys that are here and push them to be the best they can possibly be, and I think our players understand that. I think we have a lot of friendly competition that's making each other better. We have some young guys that are getting better. We have some experienced guys that are improving, and so it's a daily process that that sometimes guys get nicked up or for whatever reason might not be out there. The guys that are out there are the guys that we're going to coach and get better, and you never know when your opportunity is going to come. So sometimes, whether it's an injury or whatever the scenario is, you got to be ready for it. And the way you get ready for it is by preparing and practicing hard every day.
Thank you.
Sam McEwen, Omaha World Herald.
Another receiver question. Hey, when the light go on for Xavier Betts? I know he started on Saturday against Iowa, Friday, and he's been playing more and more. And you guys also seem to have kind of a role for him in that jet sweep. But when did the light go on for him, and why do you think it went on so that he could keep playing more and more?
Sure, I'm very proud of where he's came from. It's hard for any freshman to come in and make an instant impact. It takes time, and so I don't know if it was like an instant light. I think it was more of just gradually getting better. I do think, when we got into some game action and got some confidence and had a little success in the Penn State game, I think that gave him more confidence and just knowing what it takes to play at this level, the speed of the game, and he's continuing to get better. He gets better every day in practice, and very proud of where he's going, and he's a special talent that's going to be a great player here.
How would you describe his personality?
Fun-loving, easy to coach. He just likes to come out and work. He responds well to coaching. He wants to get better, listens, and he's competitive. He's a competitive kid that if he does something wrong, it really bothers him, and that's a big thing that we look for as coaches because he's never satisfied and he always wants to get better.
Thank you.
Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald.
Hey, Matt, just curious how you would size up the running back room right now. How much of what do you see them do in practice? How much of that translates into a game? And maybe what's the challenge of rotating so many young backs into the game the way you guys have?
Yeah, well, we definitely want to keep rotating backs because I think that keeps guys fresh. It's a tribute to our running back room that we have some capable guys that can all go in there and play. It's one of the positions that takes the most pounding. So, one time or another, I think they've all been nicked up with something. And so you've got to play a lot of guys. I think the way we schedule practice reps, we let all those guys take reps. And, our job as coaches to keep it simple enough for those guys so they can all take reps and go in there and compete. And we feel good about that. It's one of those positions that we're still trying to get completely healthy. But the guys that have played have done a good job for us.
Kevin Suits, KOLN.
Coach, on that topic, is it fair to say that Wan'Dale Robinson is considered a running back right now? I know you've played him there quite a bit, just based out of need with some of the injuries you've been dealing with. And how do you feel like he's held up with the increased workload the last couple of weeks?
He's done great. Wan'Dale, the biggest thing, this is early on when we had some injuries, running back came up and says, Coach, I want to do whatever I can to help the football team win, which means some snaps at running back, snaps at wideout. I wouldn't consider him a running back, even though he can do that. I consider him just a really good player that we can do a lot of things with. whether it's out of the backfield, whether it's, he can line up and play both positions on the outside and slot. And, has had equal reps doing that. Just really attribute to him the fact that he can also go in at running back and pick up protections. Definitely he's very good at running all the running back routes. So we've been really pleased. It helps us as an offense to have a guy that's that versatile.
Sean Callahan, Husker Online.
Hey, Coach, how do you go about just managing the right feel with that Luke and Adrian situation when you make that decision to put Luke in the game? Is it a lot of it predetermined, or is it a game feel when you make that call to make that switch in a game?
Good question. It's a combination of both, because we told those guys that we expect both of them to play in the game, this past game, which they did. And but we also said, hey, a lot of it's going to be the flow of the game. It's going to be if one guy is doing really well and we're moving the ball, we don't want to take away the rhythm, but expect both guys to play, and they both responded well. When Luke came off the bench, drove us right down the field, was ready to play. Same thing when Adrian went back in, he responded well, and Adrian, going back and watching the film, played really well. So, it takes special guys to kind of handle that, and we kind of treat it like every other position where we rotate different guys. When you're not in, you better be ready to go, and to be ready to go, you got to kind of be focused and playing the game in your mind. So when you get that snap, you're ready. So it's actually been really smooth, to be honest with you. They both are a little bit different, similar and different. They both can run, as you've seen, and they both can throw it. Some might run one play a little better than another, and so that's us as coaches, is to get those called when they're the specific quarterback. But yeah, it's been a really good situation, to be honest with you.
Parker Gabriel, Lincoln Journal-Star.
Hey Matt, you've got some big plays in the passing game from Austin Allen, and so I'm curious what you've seen from him just as a big target and a guy that can make plays. And then also he had that scary moment late in the game. Did he come out of that okay?
Yeah, he's good to go. He had a great practice today. And the reason that he makes big plays in the game is because he makes them in practice, and it carries over. His work ethic is among the top of our team, if not the top. He practices to win every day, and it shows in games. He's a tremendous talent. He's got great size with good ball skills. He can run all the receiver routes. I know quarterbacks like throwing to him because he has a big catch radius. And so I see him, continuing to make plays, and he's been a big spark for our offense.
A couple more quick ones here for Coach Lubick. Mitch Sherman, The Athletic.
Hey, Matt, another quarterback question. As you mentioned, obviously those guys have their individual strengths while running the same offense. Do you, as an offensive coach and somebody involved in the game plan, have to step out of your comfort zone at all when you're designing a system that's going to work for both of them to go in, and you may not know, exactly what series or what play you're going to use one guy versus the other?
No, and that's actually a good thing, because we feel they both can run every play in our offense. They both can run, the quick passing game, the down the field passing game, the run game. Now there might be some specific plays that one guy might do better than another when that guy's in there that you might want to call that play, but that's really helped us. So we don't have to have a separate package for each quarterback. That's helped us a lot. So if one guy does get hurt, for example, or gets nicked up or needs a blow, the other guy can go in and you can run your full package.
Is it more of a challenge to switch during a series than it is to kind of go 2 series and then 2 series with one guy like you did at the start of the game?
Yeah, I think it's easier to come in because you just come in between a series, or not in the middle of a series, but the start of the series, because you know what you're expecting a little bit. As coaches, we kind of talk about, hey, expect this play, so the quarterback who's got to make all the decisions can kind of, play the series out in his mind, as opposed to just getting thrown out there in the middle of a series, which I don't think we've done that, but that's a little harder, obviously, because it's hard for any player, because you just got to, you got to all of a sudden, reset your focus and be ready to play. To answer your question, we always try, when we are going to make a substitution at quarterback, to make sure, hey, this is what you're going to expect this next series. And we do that even if the quarterback is still in there and he's the same guy going in with the next series. Hey, this is what to expect. This is what we're going to do, and talk it out so they go out there with a little bit of an advantage and some confidence.
Back to Sam McEwen.
I don't know if you've ever faced Bob Diaco in your career, but what are the hallmarks of a Bob Diaco defense? What do they like to do? Nebraska fans are somewhat familiar with it, but what would you say about it?
I know he's had a lot of success in his career. They do a good job. They've definitely improved from last year statistically. They take pride in not giving up big plays. I think that's a big improvement just from last year statistically to this year. And so he does things. He gives you different looks, but he keeps those looks sound where they're not going to give up big plays. So like every team in this league, it's going to be a big challenge for us because it's a good defensive football team that's well coached.
They have given up, I think, about 8 yards per attempt in passing. So there has been a couple of creases there. How do you feel about your downfield passing game right now? How much better did it get in the last week?
Well, we thought we improved this last weekend. I think at one time Adrian was, you guys know the stats better than me, was like 14 of 16 and did a good job of throwing, catchable balls. Guys were doing a good job getting open. That's not just Adrian, that's protection. It all works together. And the more you can run the ball, it helps you throw the ball. So we always want to be balanced. We feel like we can throw the ball downfield. We think we can get it out fast and quick game. But we also want to be able to run the ball. So I do think we made some steps in the passing game this last weekend, and we got to continue to improve there.
And finishing up with Steve Sipple, Lincoln Journal-Star.
Can you say, Matt, if that quarterback situation will look the same? I mean, does the plan kind of stay static this week?
I could say, but I don't want to say, to be honest with you. We like I said, like you saw the game Saturday, we feel like they both can play. And we thought they both did a good job when they were in there. Like every position, there's things that you wish you had back or you could have done better as coaches, especially. There's always things that, you look at yourself and how can we continue our constant state of improvement of just getting better. But no, I think they both, I would expect them both to play. How we use them and the exact reps, I know that you guys will see that on the field on Saturday.
Thank you very much, Coach. I appreciate it.
Thanks. All right. Thank you, Coach Lubick. We'll have Coach Shenander here in just a second. All right, we'll get started with Coach Shenander. Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald.
Hey, Eric, how challenging is defending Purdue from a mental or discipline perspective with all the misdirection they mix into their offense, and what's the best way to prepare for it?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to do a lot of stuff on offense. They have for, Coach Brom's whole career. You're going to see some new plays and some new packages every week, formations, motion shifts, routes. There's going to be a lot of things to defend, and we've got to be sound in what we do. Alignment's got to be right, assignment's got to be right, eyes got to be right. I don't think there's any magic to defending it. It's a tough matchup every year, but the guys got to be dialed in on the calls that we have, and they've got to know all the adjustments, and they've got to just do their job every single snap period. And the thing that we've got to which has been a plus for us this year is we have been tackling much better, and we didn't tackle very well against Purdue last year.
Brian Christopherson, 24/7.
Hey, Eric, was that one of Damian Daniels' better games on Friday? And just what have you seen out of him in his progression this year?
Yeah, I thought he played a really good football game. He was physical. He did a nice job in the middle all day for us. He's played some really good football this year, and I think that he's getting to where he can play more plays in a row, which is kind of what he needed to do. But on last Friday, he played a really good football game, and I was proud of him. And I thought that he was a big factor in what we could do defensively.
And how do you feel Nick Henrich has sort of handled, bouncing around kind of outside, inside, how it's worked for him?
No, I think the kid's a stud. He's done everything we've asked him to do. He started off inside, and then we had some guys go down in camp, and he bounced outside, and then we had some guys go down inside, and so he's moved back there. He's a really smart guy. He's just a football player. He understands just the game in general, and then he works hard at whatever position he's going to play and learning the assignments and techniques that he needs to do to function that week. But he's handled everything really good, and he just wants to help the team.
Thank you.
Andy Kendi, KETV.
Hey, Coach. Their wide receivers between Bell and Moore get much of the pub, but what does their quarterback do well?
Yeah, so he's one of the things that, I don't think that you label him as much of a runner, but he does a really good job of finding who he's supposed to find. He knows his reads. He knows where he's going with the football, and when it's not there, he's going to do a good job of getting him positive yardage with his feet and or throwing it to the check down. So I think he manages the game really well, and he knows. There's a lot of times where they're going to try to get a big shot play on you, and he knows where to go with that football, and he knows if it's not right, don't throw it. Let's not make something crazy happen, and he's going to get it to where he needs to get the football, whether it be a check down or just getting some positive yards with his feet. So I think he's a really, really good game manager. Both their guys, actually.
Yeah, you did a really good job last year with Bell. What was the secret there?
I wish there was a secret. I think that guy's a really good football player. But I think, in the back end last year, for the most part, obviously there's a couple breakdowns, or we probably would have won that football game. But, I think the guys just played with really good technique, and they had a pretty good idea of what we were trying to get done defensively and, what was going on offensively. Not that you're ever going to know 100% with this group, because they do a good job of mixing it up. But I think it was just more about technique and eyes last year more than anything.
Steve Sipple, Lincoln Journal-Star.
Eric, I think you would consider that a good bounce back performance by the defense, holding Iowa to 2.9 yards per carry. How important was that for your unit to come back like that after what we would call a setback versus Illinois?
Yeah, I don't even know if I'd call that a setback. I think that was just a really poor performance, from us. And obviously, anytime that happens, it starts with the coaches, and it probably trickles down. But the guys knew it. The guys knew that we did not go out versus Illinois, and we had to get things corrected. We had to practice better. We had to prepare better. A lot of little things that sometimes young guys think don't matter, and they see how that affects their day-to-day life, affects what happens on Friday or Saturday, and what happens in practice affects what happens on Friday and Saturday. And for them to come back and work the way they did, it's not a moral victory, but it shows that the program's moving in the right direction, and we have enough. We have enough here. We just have to do it consistently, and we have to execute consistently. But it's a very positive thing, and it's hard for those guys when they did what we asked them to do. They defended the run, and they got off the field on third down, and so it hurt them. It hurt them pretty bad to end up not being on top at the end of that game. But it just kind of shows those guys that consistency is important as anything else. You have to be consistently good on defense and stopping the run week to week and getting off the field on third down. And then maybe you win that game if you're on a little bit of a roll and you have a little momentum, and that momentum kept going all through the year, but you can't have those lows like we did at Illinois. But it was great to have that bounce back.
One other unrelated, Colin Miller looks like he's heavily involved. I mean, what have you seen from him? What kind of impact is he having, even as not playing?
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen, especially with something like that. That was scary when it was on the field. Anytime, somebody's, not moving out there, whether the trainers are telling them, to stay still or they're doing it on their own, and then, they're carted off. That's a very scary thing for me, and I'm sure for the young man and his family. It's hard with the COVID because you can't go visit anybody in the hospital and all those kind of things. But he called on Sunday and said he was feeling pretty good. And I didn't know what to expect really. And then he shows up Monday morning bright and early for the meeting with a smile on his face. He's in every special teams meeting. He's in every position meeting. He's out at practice encouraging guys, coaching. He's got a script. He's helping everybody out. So as many guys like Colin Miller as we can get in this program, we need him because he's a warrior. He loves Nebraska, and he just wants to help. And even though he can't play, probably for the remainder of the season, that's going to be up to the training staff and himself. But for the remainder of the season, he may be helping coach. But he's an awesome kid, and he's still a big part of what's going on.
Thank you, Eric.
Parker Gabriel, Lincoln Journal-Star.
Hey, Eric, with a few games obviously under the belt now this season, how have you seen Cam sort of settle into playing outside at corner? And I mean, obviously back against Penn State, did a really good job against a guy like Jahan Dotson. So, I'd imagine you expect more of the same from him against a talented receiving core this weekend.
Yeah, I think obviously, we talked about it beginning of the season and having him at corner and only playing corner instead of moving him around like we had to do last year was in his best interest, and he's played really good football so far. I don't even know how many times he's been targeted this year, but it hasn't been a ton, and he's made a lot of plays. He was close on a play on Friday. I thought he was gonna pick that one, but he's playing really good football right now. He's got a lot of confidence in his game, and the guys have a lot of confidence in him out there. And I expect him to go out and play at a high level this weekend too, no matter who he's guarding.
One other quick one, if I could. There was a play. Iowa was getting toward the red zone, and Will Honus motioned out. He was all the way out on the boundary, and then he made a tackle in space on a crossing route coming back across. Is that a play that he makes last year or earlier in his Nebraska career? Because he covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you'd like to think so. I mean, he made a similar play, I guess, against Colorado there against Laviska Shenault, who I think is a really, really good player. A little different. It was zone coverage, but he knew what he had to do. I mean, we were in man coverage, and the running back was all the way out. They went empty formation, and the running back was all the way out at number one, and he knew that there's probably a good chance that, when a running back gets out there, there's a few things, right? They run a shallow, they run a vertical, or they run, some kind of stop route out there, and so you're kind of ready for what happens. Now, anything can happen at any time, but I think he had a pretty good idea of what was going on, and I thought he made a really good play, and it helped us get off the field after a misstep that we had to go right back out there. So I was happy with the play he made.
Two more for Coach. Sean Callahan, Husker Online.
Hey, Coach, I'm curious, not knowing the status of that Minnesota game next week, do you even have to kind of tell your guys, like, look, this could be it? I mean, we got to leave our best effort out here on the field, not knowing how many more of these Saturdays we're going to have left here this season.
Yeah, I think if we gotta tell them that this might be it, so we need our best effort, we probably got the wrong guys here. Should be your best effort every time you go out there. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you guys probably know more than I do about Minnesota. I don't care about Minnesota right now. It's Purdue for us, and we'll move on to Minnesota the next week. But our guys are just ready to play, and they've been wanting to play every game, and it hasn't bounced our way some of the times, but these kids wanted to play football at the beginning of the year, and Coach Frost, obviously fought to get them to play football, and they just want to play every chance they get. And so I'm not worried about them thinking this could be their last game, or we might have two more or anything like that. I know whoever we play, whenever we play, they're going to go out there and give it their best shot because they love the game and they just love playing at Nebraska.
We'll wrap up with Sam McEwen, Omaha World Herald.
Eric, you're a former Iowa guy, so is Bob Diaco. You ever run across him in your career, or just chatted with him about defense?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when we were at Central Florida, he was at Connecticut, the head coach. So, we talked a little bit before the game, and I've talked to him a few times at, the conventions and those types of things. But that's about as far as it goes. It's we friendly conversations most of the time, and that's about it, to be honest with you.
Styles are different though, right? Like he's fairly well known for sort of a prevent style of defense, and would it be fair to say you're far more aggressive in that way?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, to be honest with you, I've seen them on film. Obviously, when we're getting ready for an opponent that crossover opponent they've played before and those types of things. But to be honest with you, I haven't studied his system enough to know what exactly he's doing and how much pressure and all those types of things. But I guess from what we've heard, he's a little bit more drop eight or whatever you want to call it. And we've been a little more aggressive, but I couldn't tell you enough to give you a definitive answer there.
All right, thank you, Coach. We'll have a couple players here in a minute. All right, we'll have a couple players. We got Nick Henrich here, and go ahead and open it up for questions. Parker Gabriel, Lincoln Journal-Star.
Hey Nick, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. What have the last, say, like 8 or 10 weeks been like for you, moving from inside to outside, trying to get comfortable there, now moving back inside and just trying to handle all of that?
It's not been too bad. I mean, I'm comfortable playing both positions for sure, but it has been challenging, no doubt. But like I said, I'm really comfortable playing either or position.
Is there any lead time for you, like when you change, to sort of get used to it or remember sort of the fundamentals or anything, or does it come pretty naturally?
It comes pretty natural. When I first moved to outside, there were a couple new techniques that were a little challenging to learn at first, but once you learn those, it's good. And then moving back to inside, it's all the same stuff, the same techniques that I've been doing, so that hasn't been too bad.
Sean Callahan, Husker Online.
Hey, Nick, what jumps out to you about Purdue's offense with guys like David Bell, Rondell Moore? I know they got a good running back, Xander Horvath. He's a big physical back, probably one of the bigger backs you guys have faced this season in terms of size.
Yeah, their offense, they definitely have a lot of weapons. They have really good receiving core, big physical back, and their offense does a good job of every week they show like almost a new offense, you know what I mean? So we got to really be dialed in and focused on our keys and our assignments this week.
Brian Christopherson, 24/7.
Hey, Nick, how valuable have Colin Miller and Will been, at kind of being mentors for the younger backers like you?
Oh man, those guys have been everything to us, really. I couldn't see how we could have made progress without them, honestly. They're two of the most hardworking, high character guys I've ever met in my life, really. And just coming in, they just show you really they just do everything the right way, honestly. And having leaders and older guys like that in your room really set the tone for the rest of the guys about when to show up. You got to be on time, you got to put in extra work and all that stuff. So yeah, they're really two of the best guys I've ever met.
Coach Shenander mentioned Colin was out there, I think, the Monday after his injury with like a practice script in hand. Does that kind of fire guys up to see that?
Oh yeah, it does, no doubt. Colin's been the heart and soul of our defense, like I'm sure you've heard before, ever since the start of the season. And now that he's out, that hasn't changed at all. He's still out there firing guys up. And I mean, I already thought the world of his character before this injury, but this has just made me respect him even more as a person. And he's truly just an amazing, amazing guy.
Thanks, Nick.
Yep.
From The Athletic and Omaha Burke grad, Mitch Sherman.
The Bulldogs. Hey, Nick. Your class of linebackers from second-year guys, Garrett and Reimer and yourself, all guys from in the state. That's kind of unique at Nebraska. What kind of a bond do you guys have from your couple of years here right now, and how do you see that group maturing together and preparing for the future?
Yeah, it's definitely cool to have a lot of in-state guys, especially at linebackers. And I mean, we have a great bond. We're always around each other, it seems like. So we're always constantly working and learning and, doing everything together, really. So I'll be really excited to continue to grow as players and people with those guys.
Thanks.
Steve Sipple, Lincoln Journal-Star.
I don't know if your friends ask you this, but if they did ask you, like, what is it like playing in the Big Ten? What is kind of a defining traits of playing in the Big Ten, especially compared to playing high school football? What would you tell them?
Probably the speed of the game is the biggest difference, you know what I mean? You can never take a play off. You always got to have your eyes and your keys right. Like, you really just, like, things you could do in high school, like where you mess up and kind of get away with it. Can't do that here. You got to be always on your keys, and you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. How elaborate? You mentioned something about Purdue that's interesting, that they changed their plan quite a bit week to week. How elaborate are we talking about? Are those types of changes?
Just more of how they attack each defense, you know what I mean? They definitely do a lot of things, obviously, to get the ball to their best players and do a lot of motions, and they're just a really creative offense.
Thank you, Nick.
KETV, Andy Kendi.
Hey, Nick, I want to ask you, Coach Frost talks about patience. How difficult has it been for you to be patient, to see the field in terms of, biding your time? I know you had to deal with injuries, but how challenging has that aspect of adjusting from high school to college been for you?
The injuries definitely were hard. It's just frustrating always, you know what I mean? Being out, and then once you're over one thing, you're injured in another. So that was really difficult, but now that I'm healthy, I'm really just grateful to be healthy. And, you just always got to stay ready because you never know when you're going to get your shot or anything like that. So, yeah, I'm just glad to be healthy.
Finish up with Nick with Parker Gabriel, Lincoln Journal-Star.
Hey, Nick, when you were playing outside, there's some times where Coach Dawson and Coach Nander have the outside linebackers playing with a hand in the dirt, sort of a 4-down look. Had you done that much in high school, or what was that like, putting your hand down and lining up on the line of scrimmage in the Big Ten?
I had done that a little bit in high school, but not much. So it was definitely different, you know what I mean? Setting the edge, like playing DN basically. But I mean, it was cool. It was comfortable, you know what I'm saying? It's just playing football, Football is kind of football. Obviously, different techniques and different assignments and everything. But if you know the defense, you know what everyone's doing. Just football's football.
All right, appreciate it, Nick. Still hoping to have Xavier Betts. I'll let you know here in a couple minutes. Thanks.